Hello, everybody. It is me, Sacred J. Pardon me. Um, Today we're going to talk about our Western RPGs dead. So this is going to be a rant because I'm so sick of hearing this. you know, um, a lot of the times in the RPG community on YouTube, or I've seen this, as a Reddit thread, like, Western RPGs aren't the way they used to be. And I'm just sitting here thinking, dude, like, what do you mean by Western RPGs dying? Because 90% of this argument stems from people who don't like change in their games. Okay? Like, already out the gate, out the door, whatever fucking door you want to talk about, it's already out. Okay? It could be out the window too, whatever. Because a lot of the times, this seems to come from people who solely, at least in my own experience and what I've seen said about this whole thing, they come from people who don't like change in their games. And Bethesda games like or Bethesda, Larian, all this stuff, okay? Like, I just don't get this. I don't understand how RPGs or Western RPGs are dying when it's still a thriving genre. Like, just because Skyrim is open world and you could fast travel and or play however you want doesn't necessarily mean it's a failed Western RPG. Well, the tabletop, they're not the same as it used to be. There's not a lot of tabletop role-playing games like Baldur's Gate 3, which, so what? The fucking genre needs to change. It needs to have different companies with different interpretations on what their vision of an RPG is. Because I've been kind of bouncing back between Skyrim and Starfield, right? And I know the whole debacle or the whole fucking thing with Starfield. I mean, come on, it's one of Bethesda's most hated games for God knows why. And I have to ask, are people, is imagination dead? Because 90% of role-playing in games like Skyrim, Starfield, Fallout 4, even I haven't played much of 76, but those games require imagination, even in D&D. Like, if you're going to argue that, well, the CRPGs are more closer to D&D, which, you could argue that. I mean, whatever. But even at that, you still need imagination to roleplay. Like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. Like, has any of these people who bitch about the Western RPGs dying, have they even played D&D? Have you ever played D&D? Because you're going to need imagination in order to create your character's backstory. Like, the whole premise of D&D is built on imagination. My little brother's friend, actually, is writing a complete D&D campaign. So, I don't understand the argument that Western RPGs are dying. I just don't get it. Okay, I don't understand this argument. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's coming from people that, lack imagination and always probably have had lacked imagination and needed the game to hold their hand. Well, you can't go do this because you didn't invest in this. Or you can't complete this quest because it requires you to have skills set in this and all this other stuff. And it's not bad. I'm not saying these games that, have you kind of locked behind skills or whatever are terrible role-playing games. Some people prefer that. It's a preference, right? But the whole argument that Western RPGs are dead is ridiculous to me. I don't understand this argument. I don't. It makes me question if these people have even bothered trying to roleplay a particular character. Well, I did in Skyrim, and, they dumbed that game down so much that you don't even, the dialogue doesn't even favor your skills and all this other stuff. And I'm just sitting here thinking, well, it favors personality for your character, which is still role-playing. The same fucking thing with Starfield, the same shit with fucking Fallout 4 and even Fallout 3 and Oblivion, and the list goes on. Because when I hear this, it's usually kind of pointed, at Bethesda or some other studio that these people, I guess, don't... like some other studio that they don't like, that they innovated or whatever the fuck it is. Because a lot of people, I'll tell you this, in the RPG community, they don't fucking like change. They don't like innovation. And the funniest thing is about this whole thing is it's like, because if you really look at the argument, it's more of they're arguing that the games have changed and it won't stay stagnant. And honestly, that's kind of a shit mindset, because how are things going to evolve? Without Bethesda, the RPG genre would have stayed stagnant. And even CD Projekt Red, they innovated the RPG genre as well. I may not agree with how CD Projekt Red makes their RPGs, because in my own opinion, this is just saying from my opinion, just because I say this does not mean The Witcher 3 is not an RPG. To me, it's not. Okay, I don't like role-playing games where you cannot make your character. That's me. That's a preference, right? It's all preference-based. Okay? I would argue that I find Cyberpunk a little better and a little more role-play, but I digress. It's all preference-based. And I just think this whole argument's retarded. I know, pardon my French, but context matters. I'm not making fun of people with disorders or anything, obviously. I'm saying this whole fucking argument is so dumb, it just makes no sense to me. Shouldn't even make sense to you, because, well, I mean, it does make sense to me. You know why it's even an argument? Because people don't like change. Especially over something as simple as a fucking game. Well, you put your money into it. No one's forcing you to buy the game. You made the decision to not do any research in the game and then go ahead and buy it, and now you're bitching. Okay? I don't get this. I don't understand this fucking argument, man. I just don't understand this. It's like, okay, you don't like the fact that Bethesda's not the same company as they were in the 90s or in the early 2000s with Morrowind. Good for you. Even Morrowind wasn't, from what I played, wasn't that grand, in my opinion. I mean, if we're going to be honest here, New Vegas is probably, and this sounds like I'm being a New Vegas elitist, but using the same logic, New Vegas is better than Morrowind in terms of dialogue and storytelling. I honestly haven't beaten or played much of Morrowind, but from what I've seen, dialogue is pretty limited in Morrowind as well. I mean, you can't even fucking have conversations with NPCs in Morrowind. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are a few NPCs you can actually have conversations with, but, I mean, the genre has changed to where it's more accessible. You could actually have your character live their life in the world that they're set in. One of the blessings, in my opinion, about Fallout 4, I'm going by the most hated games so far. Fallout 4, and I know Skyrim gets praise, and Fallout 4 does too, but there's still a level of hate. It's kind of mixed, you know what I'm saying? People love it, people hate it. But a lot of the criticisms are, you can't roleplay in either of these games, and also Starfield included. I got a comment about a few weeks ago saying, and it's not the comment in general, it's more of the whole argument, because this is a lot of people I've heard say this, that you can't be a bad guy in Bethesda's games. Like, it's just, nope, you can't do it. You're the hero. You're the sole survivor. You help the people of the Wasteland. You help the people of fucking Tamriel. You help the people in the universe that your character's in the fucking star system. You help people there. You can't be bad. The game doesn't need to paint a so obvious black and white that your character, like, where the dialogue screams, yeah, you're evil. You need to that's where the whole imagination part comes in, and which makes me think the people who claim Western RPGs, Bethesda's games, are dying, is because they lack imagination. You know, I'm going to make a whole video talking about the imagination part in general, and I've kind of covered it a little bit here, but because I think it's relevant. I mean, you can be evil in these games. You could even be morally gray. You know, I know Fallout 4 gets a lot of shit because of the fact that you had some supposedly this much backstory. It's like, why even create your own? Which is complete bullshit. I've already gone over this. You know, you're only given the set pieces, and then you work with it. There's, like, nothing saying that your character, you know, what they did before their occupations and before their marriage and before Sean, and even what the hell they joined the occupation for. Like, that's all for you. Like, people, bro, just don't fucking get it. They don't. They don't like the changes. They don't like the fact that, you know, the RPG genre is being redefined in a way. And I think it's a good thing. You know, I don't you know, I'm not a huge, big gamer. I play a lot of older games, like Skyrim, Fallout 4, Starfield, I guess you could say, is the newest role-playing game that's out there, and even Fallout 3 New Vegas, which I love all of those games. Well, mainly New Vegas, Skyrim 4, Fallout 4, and Starfield. Even Fallout 3 has its charm. But just because, like I mentioned with, you know, The Witcher 3, just because I think that doesn't mean that is the actual reality. Because when people say a genre is dying and Western RPGs are dead, they don't seem to think of what that actually means. Because, well, RPGs on the west side, on the Western RPGs, they're still being made. They didn't just stop making them. People still buy them. People love them. So what's the argument? What's the argument? Things are being changed. Things are being removed and replaced with other things. Who fucking cares? Why do people need to make it such a huge mission to boycott or I forget the word, but to avoid game companies because they did something you don't like? It's one thing to not like the game, right? As I argued before, it is totally fine to not like the game. Much like I did with, you know, what I said with The Witcher 3. I am not stating it's fact. These people will state it's fact, and they'll try to make even if they don't outright say, oh, well, this is 100% fact, they will try to make it fact. They'll imply it through the way they're saying it, that, yeah, it's dead. Let me show you some examples. And even though they're talking about, let's say, The Witcher 3, then they bring up all the old school RPGs that are developed by different people to point the finger and say, look, RPGs are dying. They're not like this anymore. And I personally don't give a fuck. It's not the end of the world for me. You know, if I don't like a game, I don't like a game. If I don't like what Bethesda did with something, I'm not going to play it. You know, or if the game is just that, if the flaws are that over the top for me, then I'm not going to fucking play it. Case in point, Western RPGs aren't dead. You know, people don't understand what that means when you say something is dead. Okay, like, these Western RPGs are still being made. Bethesda still has a few goals to get out of the way. They want to get Elder Scrolls 6 going, and there's supposedly going to be a Fallout coming out before the actual mainline game releases. So who knows, man? Who knows? Again, case in point, I personally just think the Western RPGs are not dying. People just don't like the change. And that does not mean the genre is dying. Like, I'm sorry that you don't get the same shit, you know, over and over again. I'm glad that's the case, because that would be so fucking boring. People would even have more of a reason to complain. But nope. Anywho, that's me. So, that's what I wanted to talk about. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace the fuck out. And thank you for watching or listening and even making it this far. I'll see you in the next one. Peace the fuck out. Goodbye.